Much perfection, wow. Hi guys, Dragoneither here. Today I'm with Haosren again. Now we've just come back from our locals. It's not our normal locals, our local locals. Instead it's more of an advanced area where it's our city's locals basically. It's more where advanced people go, people that are getting ready for regionals, or a lot of people that go to regionals go there. That's where it's held for us. A lot more advanced players play there, so it's a lot more difficult.
It's a bit more competitive too. So
yeah, Haosren came first, and I technically would have came third, but the reason why I didn't come third was the guy that I versed in the first round. Haosren actually caught him out. He cheated against me, but I let it go. He played an illegal card, and then Haosren caught him out with the stacking deck.
he had a couple of cards which were multiple cards in one sleeve. So I think the judge counted 5 cards in total that were multi-carded in the sleeve. So like they were more weighted. So when he was shuffling, he was more likely to put them to the bottom or top.
He got DQ'd. Unfortunately, you know, I didn't get to do it in my round. I was too lenient on the guy, and he tried to like double effect, double draw off his. He was running spam Karakuris. He tried to double draw off Burrito. Is Burrito the big one, or was it?
I think it was Burrito, but it was one of the boss guys, and like when they change position, he draws a card, but he tried to double draw, which is pretty dog. So.
And then he just cheated the whole game. Anyway, so basically the only person I technically lost to was Haosren here, because Noble Knights will not beat Madolche's most of the time, unless because it's hand Madolche's, but we'll get into that later. Anyway, let's start the video and start the deck profile.
Okay, first up, 3 Angelis. Still run 3 Angelis because she's the best card in the deck, not including extra deck. That would be Tiara. She sets up pretty much every play in the deck that you would want to make anyway. Next up, 3 Majorlene still. She's good searcher, free +1.
You book Imuna, maybe it's Majorlene.
Maybe it's Majorlene.
Also, comes up, yeah, it is, and you get a search.
Yeah. Next up, 3 Gelato. I still run 3 because he's the best special summon in the deck. If you're going to special summon anything, you probably want it to be him.
And on the advice that I gave you, I said, look, if you run it at 2 and you top deck 2,
you're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time. You're going to feel like a right douche for not running the 3rd one, having your deck, because you're not going to be able to make the combos off it because it's in your hand and not your deck.
Yeah, and then it takes too long to send it back to deck and combo off it again.
Whereas if you run 3 and you manage to top deck 2, you know, you still got the last one. If you manage to top deck 3, well, that's just really shitty luck, and you'll probably end up scooping. But you can still kind of try to play off it.
Yeah, you just play it out and see where you're at.
It is just bad luck.
Yep. Next up, 3 Hoot Cake. A lot of decks I've noticed have been running 2. I still like 3 because mid-game, it's a really good top deck. You're going to have a lot of targets by mid-game. Oh, not a lot. You're going to have some targets, so it's always a good draw mid-game.
If you're getting shut down, basically, it's nice to top deck into one.
Yeah, top deck into that. Like, you'd rather top deck into a Hoot than a Gelato, or like my next card, Mew. I used to run at 3. In my last video, you'll notice I ran at 3. I dropped it down to 2 because it's a pretty cloggy card. Like, if you want it, you can search for it. Other than that, you're only going to need it if you're pushing for game. Like, it's not good for aggressive plays. It's a card that you use to go for game. And last monsters, I got 2 Max C. Favorite hand trap at the moment because it gets you a lot of advantage against a lot of decks in the current meta.
Especially
Karakuri spam. Well, it's not like a meta deck, but like it's a deck you might see. Mermails are still like here and there.
Madolches have a pretty not so great matchup against spam decks, and this will give you
hand advantage against them to pretty much do whatever you want next turn.
Especially with Palooza, yeah.
Especially with Palooza, yeah. Like, if you Max C and you got Palooza on the field, you just go Max C, draw cards, Palooza, and then you got a field full of stuff to protect yourself.
And it also works with
Hoot Cake. You dump it on your own turn. You've got a live Hoot Cake if you've got no other targets. Next up, I got my spells. 1 Book of Moon. Book of Moon's good. You can use it offensively and defensively.
Saved you so much.
It saved me a lot. Like, I still like it. That's why I still run it.
I watched you get Exitons. You chained it. Exitons still went off, but at least it was set so you could ream into it rather than having to worry about trying to pop it next time.
Yeah, like Exiton's got weak defense, so I just anything in the deck can get over it except for Mew. Like, it's good. It's good.
Dickhole.
Dickhole's good. It's good against spam decks, which Madolches don't have a easy matchup against, just because we can't return all of their cards to their deck in one turn. It takes a few times. So Dark Hole's good for field resets, and then you can just go off in that turn. Next up, we've got 2 Lance and 3 MST. I still run 2 Lance and 3 MST because Lance is good for protection and MST gets rid of back row. You always want to get rid of back row in this meta because there's a lot of it.
One thing I'd like to mention about this is a lot of people are running hand Madolches. I don't like that idea because relying on your hands, which people can easily get past and can't be recycled very well, in Madolches, if they kill them off and you can't search out the next hands, you're gonna
go pretty minus.
Yeah, and I honestly, from what I've seen watching Madolches, especially Haosren's deck, I've suggested to him that it is much better to run the Lance and the MSTs and make sure your plays get off because you'll recycle your shit anyway, right? Make sure your plays get off, and you will win through that. You don't need hands to win a Madolches. Madolches win with themselves.
You just need to protect your Madolches because,
yeah, exactly.
If you get a Tiara out, you're pretty much in a winning position. If you get 2 out, you've pretty much won the game. Not gonna lie, I got 2 out one game, and the dude scooped before I could even use their effects. He was just he just saw 2, he scooped. He saw the first one, he's like, he's just sitting there. He had a look on his face. Maybe I could win this. I brought out a second one. He's like, yeah, that's game. He scooped.
Yeah, they cycle and recycle really well. You don't really need to have the hands in there.
Yep. So next up, still running 2 Ticket and 2 Chateau. A lot of decks lately have been playing 1 of one and 2 of the other. I don't like that. I'd rather have 2 of each, just because I can always have a live one in my hand to play next turn if it gets MST'd, and cycle 1 back into the deck. Because I like to combo. That's why I like this deck. I like the fact that it recycles itself, and having 2 of each is beneficial to recycling.
Basically, you want to have 1 ready for the next turn, and if you're only running 1 of the copy, most of the time, you're not going to be able to get that 1 back in your hand and have it ready.
The next turn.
You have to have...
Yeah. If you have 1 of one and 2 of another, or 1 of each, it takes 2 turns to get it back to your hand, because you have to add it to deck, and then you have to search it out again. That will usually take 2 turns. So 2 of each means you can always have 1 in hand and recycle.
And have 1 live on the field, yeah.
Or have 1 live on the field and 1 in hand.
Also, we'll explain it later, that also works well with Full House.
Yep, that's one of my side deck options. So that's it for spells. Next up, trap lineup. You got 1 Morning, 1 TT, 1 Bottomless, and 1 Compulse. I still play 1 of each because I think they're all really good cards. If you're up against an opponent and you don't need 1, you can always just slide it out for one of your other cards. So having 1 of each in main board is really good because it covers a lot of decks.
For this, the better ones at the moment are
Solemn. I rank them in order of Solemn being best, TT second, Bottomless third, and Compulse fourth. Solemn, good because it gets over pretty much everything your opponent wants to do. Sure, it costs you 2k life points, but it stops everything. TT's good, stops field swarming. Also has you can also send your shit. You
get targets for hoot cake.
You get targets for hoot cake because they don't return to your deck.
But the thing I'd like to ask is, doesn't Compulse chain with Ticket, so you get the Ticket search? Or
Compulse does chain with Ticket, but I rank it last because it has to target. If you want to use it offensively, you have to make sure your opponent has something that can be targeted. A couple of decks here and there have things that can't be targeted, like Noble Knights, so it's not as effective. But I rank Bottomless over Compulse because Bottomless gets over Soul Charge, and Soul Charge usually decks are running 1 of at the moment.
Fair enough, yeah.
Next up, I got 2 Deep Riz.
Hands.
Yeah, Deep Riz is my go-to battle trap at the moment. It gets around hands. It's the only reason I'm running it over Mirror Force. I like Mirror Force because it's a good board wipe against spam decks, but I could put it in sideboard inside it, but I prefer Prison. Prison's good. Also stops your opponent from soul charging back the thing that you deprizzed because it's banished. Next up, 2 Phoenix Chain. I cut Chain down to from 3 to 2 because at 3 it was a bit too cloggy. You'd end up with all 3 on field sometimes if you go into extended duels, and then you've got little to no room to activate cards when you need them, or to set cards to bait out your opponent.
It's also good because it's kind of the battle, and it can be used as a battle trap to stop your opponent from attacking Madolche, because sometimes you can be a bit weak, and it's good to slow them down a little bit just to stop their attacks.
Next up, I got 2 Trap Stun. Still got 2 Trap Stun. Trap Stun's good, helps get plays off. Next up, 2 Black Horns. I am now running 2 Black Horns because it gets over a lot of things.
And this card should be limited or at 1 because it has no cost.
Limited or at 1? Don't you mean limited or banned?
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. It's good. It gets over anything that comes out of the extra deck. It also gets over inherent summons, like things like...
Let's put it this way. If a card like Cyber Dragon or Noble Knight Gawain tries to special summon itself out, it does not have a requirement to summon, so it doesn't have a colon, and it doesn't have a cost to summon, so it doesn't have a semicolon. Therefore... it's not a summoning effect resolution, it's just straight out summon. It doesn't have a chain. As long as the card that you summon out isn't from a chain, you can play this. You can play it against synchros, you can play it basically anything from the extra deck which isn't summoned from another card.
And cards like, what is it, Cyber Dragon?
Like I said, yeah, Cyber Dragon.
Cyber Dragon and...
But it wouldn't work against, for example, High Priestess of Prophecy. You'd want Debunk for that instead.
Yeah, or you could just solemn it.
We could solve it, yeah.
Yeah. And last trap in my lineup, 1 Palooza. I still run 1 Palooza.
Or Mind Crush.
Or Mind Crush, yeah. I still run 1 Palooza because Palooza is...
BAM!
Yeah. Field presence, and usually if you get this off, that's game. You win. That's it for the main board. Next up, got my extra deck. Still 2 Tiara Masu's.
Recycle each other.
Recycle each other. Best card in the deck. Probably best rank 4, in my opinion. It's just downright good.
Maybe not. Maybe down. Down it's pretty good there. Because you can mind control them down it.
Yeah. Next up, 2 Leviers. Still running 2. I see no reason to move it up or take it down. It combos so well with the Mew Angeli play when you're going for game. Next up, 1 Invoker.
You did use this today once.
Yes, I used it today once. That's why I still run it at 1. This deck sometimes can't always make the Mew Angeli play, or you don't have an Angeli banished, or you don't have anything banished that you can target. So Invoker's always good to go into, and you only need 1. You don't need to, if you are going into 2, then you're probably not playing the deck right, or you're just not as effective. 1 Heartland Draco, haven't made that in a while, still a good card though. Gets over
2,000, finish the game.
It's 2,000, finishes games, so it's pretty good. 1 Ragnar Zero, gets over the mirror matchup.
And Tenki.
And Tenki's. Cowboy, haven't made him in a while, but he's still good, I like him. He's good for finishing off opponents. Next up...
Anti-Luminescent... Khan Gorgon Anti-Luminescent Knight.
Yeah, haven't made him since I put him into my extra deck, but he still has his uses. Like, if your opponent has a very single target heavy deck, he's good because he can redirect everything.
Stops, 101s, he can redirect. Mind Control, he can redirect.
Yeah, MSTs, everyone knows how good MST is.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's pretty good. Next up, 1 Dweller. Yay, I got my first dead now. I'm so happy. Dweller's good.
Don't know how to explain. Don't need to explain why.
Don't know how to explain why. I now use Downed Magician again. I used to run that a while ago. Moved it back in because... I don't know, I like the card, and now I got the room for it, so...
And it's really good with Mind Control if you take one of their rank 3s or lower and you put that on top.
Yeah, your opponent goes minus off of that, so that's pretty good. And then you get a 25 beater or something, so she's good. I like her. Next up, Black Shippercorn.
Counters 101.
Counters 101. That's about it. That's it. Rhapsody and Berserk. I really like this guy. Haven't used him yet, but he's good. You can banish up to 2 cards from your opponent's graveyard, and then when he's finished doing that, you can attach him to one of your other monsters, and they get a 1.2k boost. Put that on a queen, and she's a pretty big threat. Nobody's gonna threaten her. Next up, Engineer.
That was in the last video. I'll link it at the bottom.
Yep, and Acid Golem. He is go-to card for versing Much Perfection. Wow. Herald of Perfection. This guy, probably the card I hate the most at the moment, just because it stops not just Madolche's, but every deck.
Except Noble Knights.
Except Noble Knights. Like, Noble Knights have a good matchup against these guys, but yeah, pretty much any other meta deck will lose to this if they get their combo off right, and most of the time, they get it off pretty good. So that's it for the extra deck.
Sideboard.
Sideboard. 2 DD Crows. Still really good. I don't see why people would not want to run it at the moment.
If you can run it, basically, in the sideboard.
Yeah, pretty much. You should have room for it. If you don't, you should make room. Next up, 2 Veiler. I keep Veiler in the sideboard because it's still a good hand trap, just not as good
in the current meta.
Third Maxi. Maxi's good, like I said earlier. So having a third one's not too bad. And one Swift Scarecrow. Swift Scarecrow gets over... well, it doesn't get over. It stops OTKs.
Spams.
It stops OTK spams.
Basically, both of these cards, you'd sideboard them in again if you're against a spam deck like Karakuri spam or like 6 Sams or something.
Yeah.
Not that 6 Sams are a thing right now.
Not that they're a thing right now, but you never know when you come up against them. But at the same time, I might want to move Scarecrow up to 2 just because it's actually saved my ass a couple of times. Next up, 1 Mind Control. As I said earlier, Mind Control's good.
You'd almost mainboard this at the current meta.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It'd be a good main board. If you've got room, sure, go ahead. In my current build, I don't have it, but if I needed to sideboard it, I would definitely sideboard it. Next card, Prohibition. Get around Perfection. Activate Prohibition, name Herald of Perfection. Your days are good.
Or against Harpies.
You name Harpy Lady, and it stops their whole deck. Yeah, but it's good. It's good for spot negation. Like you probably.
I play Herald of Perfection in my sideboard just so when I play a Prohibition, they know what I'm prohibitioning.
Yeah. Next up, Traps. Got Full House. Now the play about this, I will let Dragoneither go into.
Basically, because he's running 2 chateaus and 2 tickets, what you will do with this is you'll sacrifice your chateau and your ticket, and you'll destroy 3 of their set cards. Very good when you're coming against back row heavy decks. You probably wouldn't want to use it too much against artifacts.
Or hats.
Or hats,
like anything that uses artifacts.
You can use it against Noble Knights, you can use it against Fire Fist. It's a very good card that a lot of people should be running if you're not. Same as like DD Crow. Basically, if you have to sacrifice your chateau and your ticket, like we said before, the reason why you run 2 is because you should have 1 ready for the next turn, and you cycle that. That is why this is good. You free sacrifice, you'll cycle it back in. You're not going to hurt yourself,
and your opponent goes 3 back row minus.
You can also get rid of their like face up spells and traps if you can.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got 1 Soul Charge in my
Soul Drain.
Soul Drain. Sorry.
It hurts your decks a lot, but you know if the time comes and you need to play it, it's going to hurt your opponent even more.
Like it hurts Madolche's, but it hurts a lot of other decks a lot more. Next up, 2 Wiretap. General Trap Hate. This is a really good card. A lot of people playing it. Gigi's main 3, so it must be pretty damn good. People are topping with it, so it's really good.
It's also good because it stacks cards back in your opponent's deck. For example, if someone plays Solemn Warning, first of all, they have to pay the 2,000 life points. You play Wiretap in response. It goes back into the deck. 1, they have to draw it because they can't search it. And 2, not only do they have to draw it, but the next time they play it, they have to pay the 2,000 life points again. That's 4k just for that.
It's 4k to negate a summon if they want to use it again. And Wiretap has no cost. Why would you not run it? Next up, 2 Divine Wrath. Gets over a lot of things, and my most hated card at the moment, Herald of Perfection. Only reason I got it in the sideboard.
Wow.
Yes, much wow. Also, it makes Hootcake live, because you can discard a monster that would otherwise not go to the graveyard. So, yeah. And lastly, Light Imprisoning Mirror, Bujin Hate. That's about it. Any other light decks?
Noble Knights.
Noble
Not
Knight.
that you really need to worry about that, but basically, it's there if you
Yeah.
come up against a problem.
Yeah, like it's there for if I need to. And that wraps up my deck profile.
Now remember guys, remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you need any knowledge about this stuff or need to ask us questions or something, feel free. A shout out to someone who asked us, why do a lot of YouTubers have Madolches and Noble Knights? The thing is, we didn't build these decks in a couple of weeks. Right? These decks have been built over a long amount of time. It's not been a few weeks, it's been like months and months and months.
Yeah, I've been building my Madolche deck up over 5 months, so
yeah.
It's taken a while.
But yeah, if you want ask any questions, we'll answer that.
Just
Hope you all have
post
a nice day.
Yeah, just post a comment if you got any questions, and we'll get back to you about it.
Dragoneither and Haosren out.